Prodigy released their third album, Fat of the Land, on July the 1st of this year. This phenomenal album, one of the year's most eagerly awaited releases, not only debuted at number one in the Billboard charts, but also ruthlessly stormed to number one in Britain, Australia, Germany, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Portugal, Ireland, even in Hong Kong. Prodigy band members Leroy Thornhill and Keith Flint sum up this amazing album for us.
It's a reflection of the live show at the moment, you know, that is the sum of it. It's up to date, it's bang on what the Prodigy's about at the moment, you know, and it's, well, that's it really. It's like, you know, if I was saying to someone, it's just a representation of what we're about now, you know. There's no track that would be more of a techno track, or it's just a collection of real hard stuff.
But does it go further than the last album? I mean, in the mixes, in the punk elements, in the dance elements, you know? Is it further out there, you know?
Well, Fuel My Fire has got to be the furthest we've ever pushed the punk side of things. And I know that people will diss us for that, but you still do.
Who will? The dance?
No, I think the press will. I've got no worry about the crowd, because when you do it on stage, they love it. That's the testing ground.
Right.
But I know the press will think, well, I have to find an angle on that tune, because it does promote a kind of an emotion of, you know, why you're doing it, what for.
Emotion for what then?
Well, I don't know, because it's so far removed from anything else we've ever done. But fuck 'em.
Yeah.
No, I'm there.
Do fans have to worry about you embracing the punk or the rock element too much?
No.
Or have they all gone along for the ride as far as it's going and wherever it goes?
Yeah, that's what it's about. They understand that, because you look at Firestarter and look at Charlie. That's enough of a thing to say that if anyone's been into us from the beginning and they're still into us, they know what the band's about. It's open mind, and they probably really sort of like look forward to find out what the next angle's going to be, you know, where it's coming from.
In Canada, Fat of the Land became the first ever independently released album to debut at number one. This is certainly some achievement, and not too surprisingly perhaps, the critics on both sides of the Atlantic purred with delight at this 10-track techno assault. David Brennan, writing in Britain's usually conservative Guardian newspaper, says in his album review,
"Completely, absolutely, gobsmackingly dazzling. This people is Mozart at the wheel of a monster truck. It's Earthquake, directed by the Coen brothers. It's not just good, it's so good that it's impossible to take it all in at once. Just let your jaw hang slack for a while. This is rock and roll as it now stands. When it gets into the pool, everything else leaves in a hurry, including the water. It is the Fat of the Land, the album that ate the world. This thing is Godzilla with funk. It's a brand new greatest hits album from a band whose form was already blinding. It will blow your mind and grind the pieces into the carpet under its size 14 boots."
Not to be outdone by that, Dave Sharp from Earwig magazine raves, "Fat of the Land is a cranial blast that actually deserves the hype. The relentless, abrasive beats are tempered with hip-hop grooves and topped with pugnacious vocals of Maximum Flint. An irresistible addiction you know could be fatal, but that's half the attraction." But who are the Prodigy? And how have they managed to turn hip-hop, techno and rock into a fusion of hard-hitting music that has made them one of the biggest bands in the world? We asked Lisa X, who is musical director at San Bernardino alternative rock station KCXX, on why she feels they're popular in the US, even if, as it appears, there is a certain apprehension with some program directors.
Electronic and techno base of the music is kind of frightening to some programmers. But I think what saves the Prodigy and what is going to catapult them into success, or keep them successful in the United States at least, is the obvious influences that you hear of the grunge rock bands, of the American popular bands like the Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana. You can hear that rock and roll infusion into the dance music, and I think that's what's so appealing to people over here and why the American kids can get it. Because they hear that rock and roll, and they also hear the techno dance beat, which is very, which speaks to a very primal part of us. The pounding rhythm. I was at a club last night listening to Firestarter, watching the crowd And I thought, even if you've never heard the song before, there is something about it that is very primal, that just makes you have to get up and dance. And I think that that's a very powerful feeling, a very powerful emotion to draw people onto the dance floor and into the record stores to buy the record.
I'm radio journalist Max Hasanovich, and throughout this audio documentary we should attempt to follow Prodigy on their remarkable journey from the obscure dance floors of South East England to global recognition. Prodigy are Keith Flint, Leroy Thornhill, Maxim Reality, and keyboard wizard Liam Howlett. Our story begins with 17-year-old Liam attending his first rave at a local club, The Barn, in Essex in southern England. The rave scene in the early 90s was huge, with incessant hip-hop beats blasting through literally thousands of bodies, all galvanised into a frenzy of excitement. Any newcomer to this could not help but be enthralled by the energy and the ecstasy-fueled friendliness of the scene, and Liam was obviously no exception. He soon began DJing a variety of hip-hop tunes, and the sounds that Liam was spinning certainly impressed two dance floor buddies enough to ask them to make him a tape. The two pals were local lads, Keith Flint and Leroy Thornhill, but it was the second side of the tape which Liam had filled with his own material that blew the pair of them away. As an interesting footnote, Liam had titled the tape Prodigy because the keyboard he was using at the time was a Moog Prodigy. Meanwhile, Flint and Thornhill clearly recognised a good thing when they heard it, and not being the shy and retiring types, offered to dance on stage to Liam's music. A mutual friend then introduced the three of them to Maxim Reality, who had become a well-known figure on the reggae scene. The trio by now had become a quartet, and Prodigy was born. By the end of 1990, Prodigy were performing regularly and had been signed to XL Records. But as we'll now hear, musically, the band are not all cut from the same cloth. Keith and Leroy explain.
My roots aren't hip-hop.
Sure, yeah.
I was there, had my lino, had my cagoule, broke my neck a couple of times trying to spin on it, and had fun doing it. Enjoyed the beats, enjoyed the scratching and the vibe of it all. But to sort of try and be really trendy and say personally I was there in the hip-hop scene, no, I wasn't. I was into anything from whatever angle that had a vibe, that had a drive, had a beat, had a rhythm, had some soul. I was into it. I decided not to be blinkered. I wanted to go out, and I obviously had a dancing type vibe in me. And I hung out with people, just because of an age factor. From the hip-hop thing, a lot of my friends went in a different direction that ended up involving violence, football, drugs, prison. Quite street, but not my thing. Waste of your life. So I decided to go for just hanging out, smoking draw, riding my motorbike, going to festivals, going from biker festivals that were a bit more hardcore to sort of hippie type free festivals and things. But I found myself not being able to dance really. It wasn't until the sort of dance scene come along and someone explained it to me with a passion that was like, oh my word, if you're just not there and you just don't go, you're going to really miss out on something. It wasn't until then that I thought, hey, I can come here, I'm be me, I can hang out, I can dance, I can express myself as I want, and that was a good release, because rigid scenes, as free as they may be, still suppress you. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Your jeans are too baggy. You know what I mean? What shoes you got on there? Do you know what I mean? Very, very. It's a fashion, but it's got a rigid regime behind it, which I wasn't into.
I think musically, without any thought about it, it wasn't made to be anything like this. But musically, if you listen to the first EP we ever done, Android, and then if you ever were lucky enough to get to hear, well you won't, but to hear some of the tracks Liam wrote before we got together, a lot of the elements of the music are pretty much like the stuff we're doing now, on obviously quite a weaker scale of production type and effects because of the limits of equipment, but it is strange that, like you're saying, we're not purposely going back to our roots, but it's like, like you do a track and one of us might say, Christ, this sort of feel gives me the feel of wielding a rock. which we've done 7, 8 years. You know, Liam was writing 7, 8 years ago stuff, and it's like you know in your heart that that just shows that we've kept our identity all the way along the way. You know, whether it's expanded a bit and gone off in slightly different directions, it's come back now to where we're at a point now where we've sort of caught up. The album is now, you know, like the last album, there's tracks on there like Start the Dance and things like that, which have come more out of the dance scene, and then, you know, like the stuff that was moving on to this album, like Poison, Nell or Voodoo People, you know, so it was a little bit of a mixture, but with this album it's like bang, this is now, it's not a bit of the dance, it's not a bit of what's to come sort of thing, it's like bang.
Their first ever release was a 4-track EP entitled Where Evil Lurks, which was set upon an unsuspecting world in the spring of 1991. It managed to reach number 31 in Britain's dance charts, and over the next 15 months the band released a number of other EPs, Charlie, Everybody in the Place and Fire. And although these were extremely innovative for the time, none of these early releases had as yet managed to capture the national consciousness. However, the band was beginning to spawn 1,000 imitators, and their appearances at the huge dance raves that had swept the length of Britain in the early 90s were becoming an increasingly trumpeted attraction. But is imitation the sincerest form of flattery? Leroy and Keith explain.
In terms of bands and other people wanting to copy you know, it's like we're the original, there isn't any other bands like us. You know, there might be a few that start trying to come, but they're never going to be Prodigy, because Prodigy was the first one to be like they are. So we don't have to worry about that, you know. And if someone gets inspiration from us and decides, I want to try and capture some of that energy, and they put that there, you know, they put that into their music, that's cool. But someone who sits there and thinks, all I've got to do
is get a guitar, 4/4 beat, dance, rock. It works, it sells, you know, and it won't ever sell, it won't ever work. They won't have a Flinty on stage, they won't have a Leroy on stage, they won't have a Maxim on stage, and they won't have Liam in control of something far more dynamic than, you know, some cheesy riff on the top of sort of, you know, they won't do it.
By November of 1991, their first album, The Prodigy Experience, was released, entering the charts at number 12, and things began to get serious. Even though the band's mostly instrumental dance floor anthems had made Prodigy a regular feature in the higher reaches of the charts, the British government seemingly had other ideas. Reeling from what it perceived as a hedonistic affront from Britain's youth, the government introduced the Criminal Justice Bill, which effectively made the impromptu raves where the Prodigy had cut their teeth illegal. Liam realised with the scene now changing so dramatically, the band's sound would have to do likewise. When the Prodigy's second album was released in 1994, it became clear that Liam had gone back to the drawing board and created an album that was a total departure from anything the band had done before. Trailed by the massive single No Good, Music for the Jilted Generation entered the UK and most European album charts at number 1 and went gold within a month. Once again, Prodigy's club credentials had been solidified. Respected club DJ, JJ Hagger, talks us through the excitement that greeted the new album.
When Jilted Generation officially came out, I mean, Poison was the lead track, and MTV picked up on it big style, and the club, it was just such a track that built from nothing, and then Voodoo People, which was another single off there, and immediately you dropped the needle into the groove in the club. Just the opening 10, 20 seconds was instantly recognisable, and the place would just erupt. I mean, they would cheer, they would start blowing whistles and cheering, and it was actually unbelievable. I mean, such a vibe. I've never known such a vibe for the dance act. But rock bands and indie kids, everybody latched on to, you know, that album. It's and Their Law, again, another track of the album, which, wow. I mean, because it was done with Pop Elite itself, which in itself was a great crossover from indie to dance. I mean, the whole album just seemed to contain 10 songs that just everybody just wanted to hear them all. I mean, of course, you know, since then it's gone on even bigger. But I mean, whether you go back to Outer Space or Wind It Up, from, you know, the early days, or where, of course, now with Breathe and Firestarter and Smack My Bitch and other such tracks from their new album. I mean, the Prodigy, I mean, they're just an act that's just come out of the box. I mean, it just, as soon as you put it on, the place just goes mental. And you can talk about the Chemical Brothers or Josh Wink or all these other dance acts, but the Prodigy are it. They've been it for at least the last 18 months, and it keeps getting better and bigger, and it doesn't seem to stop.
Music for the Jilted Generation was a brooding masterpiece of dark dance majesty, and had both the critics and the fans salivating over its excitement and heavy intensity. The band were now also establishing themselves as one of the most exciting live acts around, with Keith's manic cavorting and confrontational style, and Maxime's genuinely intimidating stage presence. The band have established themselves as the live act to see. KCXX musical director Lisa Axe talks about the stir a show recently caused in Los Angeles.
They recently just played a show in Los Angeles, and what's interesting is that LA is notorious for having a very laid-back and very disassociated audience. Basically, it's a bunch of industry people that go to an event, and they are too hip for the room, sort of thing. Whatever band is playing often is secondary to mingling with the people of power from other record industry reps. However, this Prodigy show in Los Angeles was so talked about and so anticipated that when it actually occurred, the buzz around it was incredible. I mean, we heard DJs on other radio stations talking about this show months before it actually happened. The excitement was so genuine. And for Los Angeles, that's a very big deal, and the buzz around the band and their live performance is very, very key.
Although Keith and Leroy clearly love performing, they are equally modest regarding the band's live reviews.
People come and see us, and it depends what they get out of the night. That doesn't mean we're the best band in the world. We just want them to have a good time while they're there, you know. How can anyone say they're the best, you know, band in the world? Because people have got, you know, different opinions. The fastest runner in the world, best, you know, something like that. Yeah, but like,
You know, someone at the end of the day would rather probably go and watch Riverdance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And someone might want to go and see Pavarotti. Someone might want to go and see flat out energy. If you want to see energy and you want to be stirred up, and you kind of almost want to be watching the boxing on the edge of your seat, bang,
feeling like
you know what I mean? Come and watch the Prodigy. We're not there to tell people you ain't seen the show unless you've seen us. And when you get complacent, you start thinking, we're just the best thing, Leroy. Do you know what I mean? Let's not bother keeping you here. You're the best.
No, you're the best.
I mean, you've just got to walk out there in your presence.
No, but your presence, you
Does that mean
It's got a problem.
Yeah.
you know, we spend so much time at each other's arses, the world's gone past.
I mean, you know, to get respect off of Bono, off of all the people we get respect of, God, what a buzz. There's nothing that I pine for more than being on stage.
And release that adrenaline.
And release, that release of energy, that
The connection with the audience.
It's just priceless.
It's just creates an
Priceless.
atmosphere.
And because you're up there not actually thinking about it, it's just a moment of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Union.
It's
How do you
just-
deal with the come down afterwards? Or when you're not touring, or when you're off tour? Because,
I find it quite hard.
yeah.
Yeah, we have to sort of, I mean,
Do you though?
yeah,
I like deal with the gap, when it goes.
I miss it like nothing else on earth.
any more than 2 weeks, if you go out any more than 2 weeks and you have a week of being like down, don't you?
Yeah.
You've done
With
all
energy,
you do.
trying
without
to-
the gig.
Yeah, done what you do
Trying to
yourself.
drag yourself up to do things and stuff. You know, I've luckily enough had my motorbike, and you know, by the time I've nearly hit a few things on the way round, you are pretty much pumped up.
In March of 1996, the Prodigy released the awesome Firestarter, which sold 500,000 copies in Britain alone. Apart from unleashing Keith Flint's vocal sneer on the world for the first time, the sheer adrenaline rush as the colossal backbeat kicked in made the song the most talked about release of the year. The video which accompanied the single received a record number of complaints from television viewers, and with the release of Breathe in November of 1996, the Prodigy had clearly cemented their role as one of the most controversial but loved bands in the world. But what about those frightening faces grimacing at us throughout their videos? Are they always so confrontational?
We're not really that off the wall.
Aren't you?
No.
So is it the kind of like stereotype you sometimes have that people who are very like exuberant in spotlight are much more quiet?
Yeah, that it is in a way, but only in a way as it's like when you're on stage, the music makes you want to release, and you don't control that. It's something you just let off. And then when people ask you to do photo shoots and get scary, pull faces, do this, do that, you can't do it because that is something that's natural. It's not manufactured. You don't say, "Oh, this is my scary face." It's just something that happens when that music comes on, and that's it.
Still, take for instance the Spice Girls. They walk like their videos. Every kick. You know what I mean? It's not like that. I'm not scared of people not thinking I'm scary all the time, so I don't sit here like throwing food at you and spitting at you because I think that you're going to write about how mental I am. I'm not frightened about that. You go on stage, it rocks every time. That's your reward, that's your answer, that's your buzz. But you can't go and live that everywhere. As much as it's me, as much as it's totally me, you'd be living in another planet if you carried it off everywhere you went.
The success of the Prodigy is twofold. Apart from being an awesome band, their sound manages to transcend so many generic boundaries that they have become universally applauded in everything from dance to heavy metal circles. In fact, the effortless manner with which their music has managed to cross so many different areas has put various music fans and publications into something of a quandary. Britain's heavy rock magazine, Metal Hammer, recently debated just that point.
The decision to cover a band like the Prodigy within the pages of a magazine called Metal Hammer was not one taken lightly. However, there comes a point when the perpetual forces of change and progress can no longer be ignored, and we think that with the release of the Prodigy's third and hardest album to date, Fat of the Land, we have finally arrived there. Think back to the first time you laid eyes on Keith Flint's piercing pin-dot stare and rabid demeanour, or perhaps being hit by the intro riff to Breathe and thinking it was probably the best extreme tune you were going to hear all year. Now ask yourself again if this band don't deserve to be covered alongside less traditionally dance-oriented acts.
The Prodigy have clearly managed to unreservedly cross over from the dance scene into rock, whilst managing all along to effortlessly maintain their identity and dance floor credentials, without seemingly ever compromising an inch. There are not too many bands that come along and push everything to the brink, challenge definitions and manage to stretch preconceptions to their breaking points. Mike Boehm, musical writer at the Los Angeles Times, expands upon this general theme.
That kind of techno approach, everyone is wondering here whether that is the new wave. Is that going to be a dominant form? My feeling is that anything goes now. It's one of the good things in pop that any approach can work if you've got the right hook, if it's got intensity. I think the audience has grown vast enough that any band in any style can have a success, because if you say, well, grunge is dead, well, what about Bush? They're riding high on the charts too. That's just Nirvana the second, and they're still selling well. So obviously there is an appetite for grunge in that old early 90s style if it's done in a way that there's a large segment of the public that'll go for that if it's presented in a certain way. And then you have the Wallflowers doing well, selling lots of records, no doubt. And then here come the Prodigy doing well. So it just seems that there's an in for anything, and that's kind of exciting if you're a critic if critics who want to have a center to the universe. It's a little bit disconcerting perhaps because there is no center. I guess William Butler Yeats had it right. The center cannot hold, and it's not holding now. But that might not necessarily be a bad thing. It means that music in all kinds of different genres has a fair chance to become a hit. There's such a wide audience that a lot of different styles reach 1 million, 2 million people, and not even really crack the mainstream. It'll cross over in some respect, but I don't know if Wallflower fans will be, or No Doubt fans will be buying the Prodigy. Maybe they will, but there's room for, there's no one doctrine anymore in pop, and I think that's basically a good thing.
One of the most intriguing developments in the rise of Prodigy has been the tumultuous reception received from North America. Initially it was feared that with the claustrophobic pigeonholing of music that exists on US radio, Prodigy would find it difficult to cut airtime outside the college radio scene because their music blatantly cuts a swathe across so many station boundaries. How could an alternative rock station play a band whose sound clearly emanated from hip-hop? And conversely, how could dance stations play Firestarter with all its naked and hard-hitting aggression? Once again, the intrepid foursome from Essex seemed to have won the day. Naturally, the British press were delighted Prodigy had broke it in the US, but how important was it to the band? Keith and Leroy explain.
It's all a control thing. I mean, America getting all excited and this electronica thing and whatever, but trying to do these raves, like let's all get all the electronic bands there, and we won't play them because we don't want to be brought over as part of the fucking scene. We can stand on our own 2 feet, and we'll go to America and we'll do the small shows and we'll build it up the same as we have everywhere else. And if the Americans can't get into this album, then fuck them. We don't need America. It's not. I'm not dissing it. Sort of, we don't. But we have a good time. We've got a buzz everywhere. And we're not going to compromise it to try and make them buzz.
Well, otherwise they'll grind us down and take the buzz away.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be ground down. No one has done it yet, and we don't want anyone else to sort of feel it's their position to do it. We're there to buzz. And doing press till midnight every fucking night, and then doing photos till midnight, and then they're saying, Keith, the faces, fuck the fucking faces, you cunt, come to the fucking show and take some pictures. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And as you can see now, Liam and Matson are going to do their own shows, and me and Leroy are going to sell.
Not for the first time, the band also had to overcome a certain amount of controversy regarding some of the track titles on Fat of the Land with their US label, particularly the opening one. Leroy and Keith explain.
It's like smack the bitch up. It's not that, oh right, I'm going to slap my woman.
Oh yeah, have you gotten flack on that title?
Yeah, it's just
what are they thinking? That's what it is?
To me, bitch is the tune.
Yeah, the bitch is
it's a hook.
I mean, I think it also goes to prove that the girls that come to our shows are hardcore girls, and they don't, they're not all like, oh God, it's a bitch, or, political correctness and all that. Let's chill on it. You respect your fellow man and woman, and that's it. You don't go around thinking, oh, you're not a spokesman, you're a spokesperson. Political. Oh my God, did I say that right? Now, are you? Do you wear a bra or do you wear a brassiere? You know what I mean? Or do you
Miss or Ms?
Yeah, you know what I mean. That ain't nothing to do with us.
All right.
America wasn't that happy about the title.
No. This title?
Yeah, but that's...
Have they gone crazy on that one?
Well, all they've asked us to do is, they asked us to change the lyrics, which was like, no way. So they said, well, the only compromise that we come to and have ever come to with anyone was that we'll, on the sleeve, we'll, swap my B, star, the funky S.
That's nothing.
Did America put pressures on because it was a big deal? All this talk, did they say we want you to go for the wider audiences, we want to change the music and anything?
Well, effectively that's what they're saying, but effectively that's not what they get.
All right.
They can't tell us that, because I think we've all sat back from enough things like Top of the Pops, which now doesn't seem a big deal talking about it, but when you're like, you've got into this band, hey, hang on, it wasn't my lifetime ambition. Of course, you sit there thinking, I'd love to have a go at that, but I'd love to have a go at motor racing, I'd love to be a porn star, I'd love to do a lot of things. Right. But, so you think, yeah, fucking hell, I'd love to have a go at that, but it's not your lifetime ambition. Suddenly someone turns up to you as like a very young lad and says, you can go on telly tonight. This Thursday you can go on telly. We went, no. Do you see what I mean? And we turned that down, so we've always been on the edge of like, well, no, we'll give that up for what then flowers out of that.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? We won't have it now in case it doesn't last. We're going to make it last.
But most you'll change are the titles on the album cover. Fascinating where you're going to sell out, because if you move into big time, as they figure.
No, I mean, they're calling out for us to do like a stadium tour, you know, so, but I'm a punter. I go to a stadium gig. I stand at the back. Look at me, I'm not the tallest guy. You're all right, you can stand there and see fucking everything. But there's me, I'm at the back, and I'm like,
That's where you get your stage at.
yeah, exactly. You know, and that's why I jump around so the people at the back can see. You know, we want that intenseness. You know, that sound that you're kind of like fighting through. You know, the lights that are like bang, bang, bang. You know, someone there in your face, touchable. You know, and you know, to be quite honest, people. Not that you want thanks for it, because you're doing what you're doing at the end of the day, and you're standing by your decisions. But you know, the amount of money that you make through doing a stadium tour, you know, you make or you spend. If you do a little English tour like we're going to do, you don't earn any money. Right. You spend money. I think that's giving. I think that's giving something back. I don't expect thanks for it, or I don't feel like I'm owed anything for it, but I think that you're still giving.
Because
you know
what it's like.
Because you know what it's like to stand at the back 40 million people later and think, well, I can hardly hear it, I can hardly see it. I'd rather be watching this at home on a video in a year's time and listening to it through my stereo system.
Right.
You know, the Prodigy's about coming to taste it, to feel it.
Fat of the Land found itself in 2.5 million homes within the first week of its release, a remarkable achievement in anyone's book. The band had taken the bedroom dreams of 1,000 techno disciples to the big stage, and who could possibly argue that the Prodigy are here to stay? We asked Lisa X of KCXX, San Bernardino's alternative rock station, where she feels Prodigy will go from here.
It's difficult to say, but I think that with the success of the Fat of the Land, it's pretty much up to the Prodigy now. Everyone at this point has heard of them, has heard Firestarter, has heard the next single, Breathe, and now it's up to them. You know, where are they going to go with their next album? I think the Fat of the Land debuting at #1 in the United States is a really huge deal for them, and I think that that's going to help them get into the mainstream. And we'll see where they go from here. I mean, will they? If they stay on this course, I think there's a very big possibility that they will be the next big thing. I mean, I happen to really believe in this band.
We leave the last word to Leroy.
I mean, we've been together nearly 7 years. We've never had an argument. When I get home and I'm like, my day off, it's not, I'll give one of the boys a really set her up to. We hang out, you know, it's just like, I mean, at the end of the day, we're not a sellout, we never will be. We've got our feet on the ground, right, and we're real and we're true to the music we believe in, but we're fucking laughing.
All right. Okay.
Because we're 4 guys who are buzzing.